5 or 6 now.
Short Scott.
Yeah, right, I'll see your name on it.
Oh, very well done.
Does anybody remember George C. Scott?
Yeah. Yes.
Remember when he said, no poor bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. He was to make the other poor bastard die for his country. So he won an award on that.
Okay.
So I guess they probably want to know,
Who's going to ask the question?
I don't know, I'll moderate it, even though I always feel awkward doing stuff like this. But, well, I guess you guys probably want to know when Larry started out, right? That's probably something you all want to know.
Was that the first thing he did after? I'm not sure.
F-Troop? No.
that's what I mean.
How'd you start out, Larry? What was like your first professional gig that you ever had?
My first professional job, I was about 15 years old, and I lived in Brooklyn, and I had a job for 1 week in Sheepshead Bay, and my salary for the week was $12.50, which I was very, very happy to receive. So I've been in it since I was about 15 years old. I never finished school. I was invited never to come back. To do at Clinton High School.
Well, how did you learn to do impressions and the dialects? Where did all that come from?
My mother had a rooming house, and it was loaded with starving actors. And
Including Orson Welles.
including Orson Welles, that's right. And a lot of them were European. There was German and French, and a lot of Russian people at that time. So I picked up on the dialects, maybe because these actors had to answer the phone on the main floor, and I could hear their dialects while they talked. And I was an impersonator, and I copied the and being able to do dialects was my lifesaver, because when I first started on the stage, we were not mic'd. We had to get that voice over the footlights and into the balcony. And I'd been a screamer all my life playing baseball, and there was no trouble hearing me. So that was a big help. But the dialects got me really started.
And so, once your career had started taking off, you then joined the Navy, right? And you performed in the Navy with Billy DeWolf and his troupe?
I was the clown of the barracks, and they brought me into Billy DeWolf. You see, in those days, the bands in the Navy, we were all sent out to raise money on bond tours. And so they made me the cymbal player, and they would say, ladies and gentlemen, our cymbal player does impressions. Come on down. And that's the way I got started in the war.
Now, you also met someone very famous during the war, right? On the Intrepid, Bernie Schwartz.
Oh, I was on a submarine tender for a while, and one of the crew was a guy named Bernard Schwartz, but you all know him as Tony Curtis. And he said to me one day while we were sailing, I'm going to be a great movie star. Not I want to be, but I'm going to be. And here I'd been in the business and I knew how tough it was. And I said, listen, kiddo, you're a good-looking boy. Why don't you model some clothes? Do you like to starve? You want to starve? No, I'm going to be great. I said, all right, if you need any help ever, call me. Don't you know when the war is over, I need a job, and he's a big-time star, and I'm gonna, hey Tony, you need a Russian for your new picture. Why don't you put me in it? And he did. So Tony Curtis, here's a guy I'm telling, I'll help you, and he's pulling me along, you know. So it's wonderful the way things worked out.
Well, speaking about the way things worked out, after the war, how did you get back involved in show business? Because that's a great story.
I wanted to see America, and if you were in uniform and you had been in the war, it was easy to get a job, a hike on the road. If you're in uniform and you got that one thumb up in the air, you couldn't miss. A guy picks me up on the road. I'm going to New York from Hollywood. He turns out to be Phil Harris. He was Jack Benny's old Ian Jackson. He was that guy. And he picked me up. And he said, what are you going to do now, kiddo? I said, well, I'll try to get back into show business. He said, let me hear what you do. And I did a couple of voices, a couple of dialects. You know, I mean, I did all that stuff for him. And he brought me in to see Lucille Ball. He turned the car around on the way to Palm Springs, and he took me to his Ciro's nightclub. Lucille Ball was sitting in one corner. Desi Arnaz, her husband, is rehearsing for the next night. When he opens, Phil Harris said, do a couple of dialects for Lucille. And I did. And she said, get out of the sailor suit, buy a blue suit. The show goes on at 8:30 tomorrow night. You'll be here at 8 o'clock. And that's how I got back into it. It was all luck. All luck. Can't get.
And it was like a 6-week thing too. It wasn't like a one-night gig. It was like a 6-week. Lucy liked you so much, she kept you there for like 6 months.
I was invited to, who was the president?
Truman.
Truman. I was invited to entertain him. And one day, the house in which I was living, a knock on the door, I open up, and it's a rough-looking character, and he says, I called the woman of the house over. I said, I don't like the looks of this guy who's asking questions. If you need me, I'll be right behind him. Turned out he was with the FBI. He was checking up on me to see if I was going to be any danger to the president. And here I'm telling the lady, if you run into any trouble, again, Sonny, if you need me, I'm right behind the door. FBI, go low.
Well, something else people might like to know is you taught Sammy Davis Jr. how to do his impressions.
Sammy Davis and I were working in Las Vegas, and he said he wanted to learn to do impressions. Guys, are you dirty rats? I'm going to give it to you just like you get, Jimmy Cagney and Edward G. Robinson, all those guys. And I teach Sammy Davis how to do impressions. And he's working with the Sammy Davis trio. And I run over in between shows to the rancho where he's at. He sees me in the audience, and he does all the impressions that I taught him, and the house comes down. Everybody was excited and loved it, except his father. His father said, you did those, and you didn't tell me that you were going to do those impressions. You didn't tell me that Sammy wouldn't quit, and much to my delight, he stayed with impressions. And he said, Larry, help me out with it. And that was one of the high spots in my life.
Well, I think your most famous impression, maybe people don't know this, was Cary Grant doing Judy, Judy, Judy.
Well, no,
how did that happen?
I was working in the Trocadero nightclub, and I was doing Cary Grant. And one night, Judy Garland walked in, and the waiter came up to me and whispered in my ear that the great Judy Garland had just, and said, well, I didn't know what to say, and I said, Judy, Judy, Judy. Now, Cary Grant, as close as I could get. And that got passed around, Judy, Judy, Judy.
And you did your impression of Cary Grant.
He was sitting
for Cary Grant.
Yeah, he was sitting in the front row.
But when Tony was doing Some Like It Hot, wasn't Cary Grant on set, and then you guys met at the commissary for lunch or something like that? Remember, then Cary Grant said,
Oh my God, he even breathes, not me.
Right.
But I had a lot of fun doing impersonations.
Well, I guess everyone wants to know about F Troop, right?
Oh, yeah.
So how did you get involved with F Troop? Didn't you go in first to read for Sergeant
He
O'Rourke's
asked me, he
part?
said to me, you're going to be perfect. My agent said to me, you're going to be perfect for him. What do you know? I know you're from Brooklyn. What do you know about horses? I said, the only thing I know about horses, for sure, is they give milk. He said, you're going to be great for F Troop.
So what was it like working on that set with everybody? Because you guys really all got along well in real life,
The
right?
best bunch of actors and actresses that I mean, everybody was so excited to be a part of F Troop, you know. And the Indians, where the heck are we? Well, that was a cleaned up version. Where the heck are we? Can you figure out what the real thing is? Yeah, I caught that. So that's how that got started, all by accident.
And you guys had great guest stars on F Troop too.
Yes, we did.
Paul Lind.
Paul Lind, remember Paul Lind? You show me a hooker with asthma, and I'll show you a woman who whistles while she works. And who else was there?
Oh, everybody. Harvey Korman, Milton Berle, Vincent Price,
Don Rickles.
Don Rickles, Bernard Fox, tons of people.
Quite right, yes.
Now, what was the story with Melody Patterson? Because there was a little scandal.
Melody Patterson was 15. She played Wrangler Jane, the captain's girlfriend. She was 15. We all thought 23, 24. Anyway, one day the producer comes down and he says, those 4-letter words that you guys are so fond of using, out. She's only 15. I don't want to hear any more 4-letter words. And we couldn't believe it, you know, 15 years old. And our language improved noticeably, I might add.
You stay in touch with any of the,
Do you keep
stay in touch with any of the?
Yes, I do. I keep in touch with Ken Berry
Very Captain.
and Melody Patterson.
Oh, okay.
And Jim.
Jim, yes, I do. And Jim Hampton, the guy who played the bugle.
Oh, the bugle, okay.
Now, did any of you guys have any questions that you wanted to ask Larry, or do you want me to just continue kind of throwing it along here, or do you guys have any questions? Because I can go on for hours and hours and hours. So.
You were one of the pioneers of early television in New York. You were on the you were on the Dumont Cavalcade of Stars
Yes.
as a summer host. You were on the Colgate Comedy Hour, the Jack Parr Show. Can you talk a little bit about the early days of television when you were on those shows, the Ed Sullivan Show, that sort of thing?
Tell me about how you replaced Jackie Gleason, because when he was talking about the summer show, that was actually the Jackie Gleason show.
I was going to, Jackie Gleason was kind enough to give me his show to take over for one summer while he went on vacation. And Jackie Gleason, you know remember, the great one. And he said, all right, Larry, he said, I'm gonna let you take over. I'm gonna leave Art Carney with you. He said, we're on live. We're on live. Thousands of people are watching. Not millions. That was too much for us. Millions? There wasn't a million TV sets in the city. Million. Thousands of people are going to be watching. So just don't say what?
Duck.
Just don't say that one word. Can you remember that? Oh yes, sir. And I got the show. But Gleason was very kind to give me the show to take over.
Well, you worked a lot with the same people over and over again. Like you and Don Adams grew up together. You were friends, neighborhood kids, and then when he was doing Get Smart, he brought you in to do Guru, and then when he was doing Tennessee Tuxedo. He asked you to come back and do the voice of Phineas J. Whoopi there.
Yeah.
So, why do you think all these people wanted to keep working with you? Blake Edwards put you in about 10 different projects. Tony kept putting you in all different projects. Why do you think these people
I
kept
think
coming
maybe
back?
they needed a dialectician. I don't know how funny I was, but they needed a guy who could do dialects. And that's how I got into most of my work, through dialects.
You also did a lot of early cartoons. What was that like? You were one of the first people to really make that big name as a voice actor.
The cartoons.
I used to take actors who weren't really very fit. I used to do a takeoff on
Louis Grimble.
Louis Trimble. And I used that voice a lot for cartoons. Not everybody knew who I was doing, but I got away with it.
Well, some of your most famous voices, like the Joker and Phineas J. Whoopi, that was actually an impression of Frank Morgan.
Frank Morgan, you remember Frank? Judy Garland said, "No, you're a bad man." And Frank Morgan said, "No, I'm a good man. I'm just a lousy wizard." And I remember over the loudspeaker just before the radio show started, the fellow said, Mr. Morgan, your fly is open." And this is a full, the house is loaded, you know. Morgan, well, I beg him, your fly is, and Frank Morgan said, "Well, as the great Russian Count once said, in the house of the dead, let all the windows be open."
Now, something else a lot of people know about Frank Morgan. One night when he was doing his radio show, he was across the street at the bar, getting completely wasted, and he was too drunk to go on air, and so they called you, and they had you go on as Frank Morgan the entire hour, and nobody ever knew that it wasn't Frank Morgan. It was actually Larry Storch the whole time. Oh, does somebody else have a question? Was somebody's hand up? You can ask a repeat question if everyone else is too shy. If you want to ask
Actually, because I know everybody remembers F Troop, I wanted to ask you about the real Ghostbusters, what that was like. I mean, I know you were still working with Forrest Tucker.
And Bob Bird.
Bob Bird. Bob Burns was the guy who was the gorilla. And they go, "You know something? I recognize him in his gorilla suit, but I didn't know who I was talking to if he wasn't in that gorilla suit. I didn't know him at all. I knew the gorilla."
Was it nice working with Tuck again?
Oh, yeah.
Because you guys worked together, not just on F Troop, but Ghostbusters, and the Great
He
Train
got me
Robbery.
the job. He's the one who said, "I work better with Larry than any of the other."
But you went into the F Troop casting reading for the role of O'Rourke. You wanted his role, right?
They thought about it for a while, but
And then he came, and then he got it, and then,
Tucker said, "I want Larry to be the corporal or whoever he's going to be." Yeah.
Any other questions?
How many years was that? Two.
Don't be shy. Ask your questions.
So many of them.
We're all friends. Here, go ahead.
I used to like the episodes where you played opposite your cousin in a dual role. There was 3 of those. And it gave you a chance to do the dialects.
The dialect that I like to do, one of them was in Spanish. I like to do that because I lived not far from Spanish Harlem, and I had one joke about a police officer. Oh, this is the one I wanted to tell you. It was up in Spanish Harlem on a Monday morning. A very young person, quite young, put his 2 fingers to his eye, and he says to his mother, "Mama, I don't want to go to school today. I don't want to go today. I don't like the kids, and I don't like the teachers." His mother says to him, "Jesus, don't you give me that crap. You going to school today. You're 31 years old and you're the principal." The other one I like was a police officer of a Puerto Rican woman. And he went by the books. He picked the newborn baby up and gently patted that newborn behind, you know, what do you know, waiting for those first glorious sounds, and out they came. Police brutality!
That was neat to see you out.
I know, but,
The fan joke?
yeah. Have you ever-
Who has, does not have a,
Wait a minute, I can do it with this.
now you're gonna get the comment
The fan joke.
out. Yeah, the fan joke, yeah. Archie Bunker.
Oh, Archie Bunker walks in to a Chinese antique shop in Chinatown, and he says to the Chinese guy, "Hey, you, Fu Manchu. Oh, yeah. I breezed in here an hour ago, and I bought a fan I've used for a quarter. I took the fan outside, I give it a couple of fans, and look at that fan. You remember that?" Chinese man says, I remember the fan. He said, I don't remember you. He said, all white men look alike. Archie said, don't give me that heartache. You take it from me, it was me. You're the joker right on business with. I bought the, you know, you guys are great at building walls. Last a couple of thousand years. How come you can't put a fan together that lasts 20 minutes? You know, Chinese man said, let me see how you find yourself. Archie Bunker said, what the hell? There ain't no trick to that. I took it outside, and look at that fan. Chinese man said, for 25 cents, goddamn, you no fan like that, you fan like that.
Well, you also appear on All in the Family, a lot of classic TV shows. Aside from F Troop, was there a guest appearance that you did on a show that you liked the most? Whether Get Smart, I Dream of Jeannie, Love American Style. Was there any other TV show that you guest appeared on that you liked?
I'll tell you, I was just so happy to get a job. I really liked them all.
Did you like playing a monkey on I Dream of Jeannie?
Oh, the director said to me the night before we shot, I want you to go home and find the inner monkey, the inner chimpanzee in you. So, and for 2 days, I sat up in the top of the tree with a chimpanzee, and he said, do everything that a chimpanzee does. And that was my...
It was just on the other day, we watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Real sweet.
So does anyone else have any questions, or do you want to wrap it up, or?
Well, who was your, like, idol star that you wanted to be, that you really liked as a kid, or, you know, who was your favorite?
I like the English actors, the British actors. I love Charles Lawton,
Oh, there we go.
and I love George Sanders, and what was his...
James Mason?
James Mason. What was it the thing about James Mason? James Mason is... I just remember, what the hell was it for? I can't remember the joke. But anyway, James Mason sounded something like that, you know. And who else is there? Of the Englishmen. I can't remember anymore. Charles Lawton, I think I mentioned that.
Yeah. Did you have?
You think you could give us your version of the aristocrats joke?
Oh.
Are you paying?
Crazy? You want to see the joint clear line?
There's no kids in here.
I can't think of any questions for anybody.
Rent the movie if you want to see the joke. It's on YouTube.
I just want to say that you're such a great talent. You're a combination of Sid Caesar and Rich Little and Mel Blanc, and everything that they do well, you do all in one human being's
You were
body.
doing celebrity impression before Rich Little was born.
Oh, yeah.
But no offense to Rich Little.
The impression I used to like to do, Muhammad Ali. I always used to say, Joe Frazier. Joe Fraser. Everybody talking Joe Fraser. Joe Fraser say he want to go to heaven. I'm going to take him out in 7. I'm the greatest.
Well, you have a great story about that. Weren't you walking down the street one day and you saw Billy Crystal?
Oh, Billy Crystal, whom I love, he's another one. He does Muhammad Ali too. And we stood there yelling at each other like kids in the school now. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I'm the greatest. I'm the back and forth like kids, you know.
What was it like doing the Joker?
Doing the voice of the Joker. Well, that was just his impression of Frank Morgan, really. Well, one of your funny voices that you got was the commercial for McDonald's, where you were the burglar guy. Remember you did the audition and you went to clear your throat?
Oh yeah.
That's a funny story. I think people would like that story.
Oh, what was it? The hamburger. Or
The hamburger or something like that.
And anyway, at one point I said to the producer, well, we'll try that again. Excuse me, just for 1 second, sir. And the producer said, that's the voice I want. And he's a producer.
Yes.
Any last questions before we wrap this thing up? Anybody? Don't be shy. Come on, the back row hasn't asked a single question. Someone back there better ask a question. You guys are asking questions all day. Well, anyway, so how do you reflect on your career, Larry? Did you think F-Troop would become such a thing over 50 years later?
I think we all felt that it would be very funny. All of the actors were funny. The Indians were hysterical.
Yeah.
You know, the Hakawi Indians. And we cleared that one up. Where the heck are we?
Yes.
Where the,
And so what do you mainly do these days? You're pretty much semi-retired these days,
That's quite right.
but you still like to go out and do these shows and meet your fans and interact with people and things like that, don't you?
Right.
You still play the saxophone?
Yes.
Okay.
Go down to the park every day on a good day and sit on the park bench, by myself and blow a saxophone.
Go look for it. Anyway, so I think that was good, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. New York City.
New York, huh?
As a matter of fact, he lives on the same block he grew up on.
Oh, wow.
Not in the
That's
same,
great.
not in the same building.
Close, yeah.
Oh,
All right, on that note.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ew.